This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI-assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Tuesday, but nevertheless, today is a casual day, because for the first time we are racing in Assetto Corsa Competizione. And it's also the first time I'm presenting like this, because, of course, normally Jake Sperry, my dear colleague, does these introductions. However, he's ill today, so yeah, I'm Nicholas Hillebrand, and today I will be your sole commentator. GT3 cars and the circuit, the SPA-Francorchamps, is a very iconic mix. And of course, we're returning to that today for the first race in ACC. It's completely booked out. 30 people reserved their spots for this race, so it's guaranteed to be a very interesting race. Anyone can, of course, join these races. This is a casual race, so whatever your experience may be, whether you be a full-blown pro, or maybe you're a beginner just looking to find a little bit of a place to start racing in, you always have a chance here at World Pro Racing, and you can just join these by joining the Discord, having a look at the website, and of course, following, liking, and subscribing on the social media for Twitch, for YouTube, Twitter, and of course, Facebook. Of course, this race will also be broadcast on ESTV, TVM Sport, and Motorsport.tv. So, what's the most important part here? Spa, once again, 7.004 kilometers of racetrack, and GT3 cars. So a very iconic combination. Later this week, we're also going to return here for the final round of the HyperX Endurance Championship that we had to delay due to technical difficulties. But nevertheless, we're going to have a nice little testing today. And of course, little bit of testing today, you know, having our little introduction to Assetto Corsa Competizione, having our little introduction here once again to racing at Spa. You know, testing, it usually in real life it costs money, and for that money you usually need sponsors and partners. And of course, these for us are HyperX, Gaming Malta, Thrustmaster, Visit Malta, and of course Melita, as we saw in this wonderful opening here. But yeah, it's almost generally very fitting as well, because we're here in ACC, the official game to the SRO AWS GT World Challenge, and of course, the 24 Hours of Spa are just before the door here. Just barely a couple of weeks away, and now we also finally go on board here, or well, on board with our helicopter above the track here, with Marek Vons in a very nice car here indeed, around Stavolo here. Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo, one of the very popular picks in general since the last BOP patch in ACC, and of course there's been a lot of work in this. It's come a long way from its initial release a couple of years ago, and a lot of real drivers and of course also sim racers agree that this is by far one of the best GT3 simulators right now. So at the moment we have Marek Vons here, just going through the bus stop now behind one of the Ferraris here. I think that might be Mr. Hyde. And he sets the first lap with a 2:18.975. So already quite a strong time there. Of course, it's a bit slower than we normally have in comparison to GT Sport, but that's of course as well because we have the actual SRO BOP here, which makes the cars just generally a little bit slower, a little bit more balanced to each other. But yeah, here we have Dean Hyde in the number 93 Tempesta Racing Ferrari. Very iconic with the white there, and of course this purple reddish with the Sky logo. But we can already see how much of car variation there is. We have Fons in second place already because someone went quicker with the Lamborghini. Then we have of course the Audis here, very strong in general. Hanus is one of those, and he's in the number 125 Audi here on second place, who just got relegated to number 2 in the standings because someone went even faster. That is Mr. Lacour in the BMW M6, a car that has also been looking at quite significant improvements in the balance of performance recently. Now we have here Sergio Mendes going around Las Source in the practice session. TPC Sim Racing, so that team coming with multiple drivers today. One more Lamborghini Huracan Evo, now making his way down to Eau Rouge. But of course we have way more cars than just these here. Audi and Lamborghini, of course, very similar cars. Now here with Sheldon Muscat for GT Omega RPM Esports, of course. And we know this driver very well indeed already. So it's a very big mixture today between drivers that we already know from other events, and of course a lot of new drivers that are just, well, one would say, you know, their debut today. So it's going to be very interesting how all of these guys compare to each other. Now Tom Otti for Optimum Motorsport here, coming out of Brussels and now, out of Lecumbe and now into Brussels with the McLaren 720S. So one of the very, very nice newer cars. Of course, one of the very late cars added to this game, just for the SRO Esports Championship. And of course, because of McLaren Shadow, which took place, well, at the end of last year, but of course, the car didn't actually race in the GT World Challenge Series last year. It got added with the Intercontinental GT pack, of course, and so we got this car with quite a few nice liveries. But you can see very nice clean line here. He's actually in second gear. Overall, a lot of people usually use third gear through here, but of course they all have different gearing as well, so there's a lot of variation here. We see him following one of the Lexus RCF GT3s with a quite big difference here. Of course, we have to actually note these cars here. Every single car in this drives completely different. You have the McLaren here, for example, generally a quite understeery car, which is a little bit unusual for a mid-engined twin-turbo car. But generally, the McLaren, one of the most stable cars, actually a bit of an issue to sometimes try and get rid of all the understeer. But because of that, it's very well liked among drivers. Of course, we just saw the Lexus ahead that just went off the road and vanished for a moment. Also 2:19.335, so quite a good banker lap already. We have Yannick Ruoff, who's resetting as well with Can't Be Blank Racing. So we have also a nice mix of drivers here with either real liveries, like we have here with Simon Späth in the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini. Emil Frey Racing, of course, very well known for running the Jaguar XKR G3 in the past. But they changed to Lambo recently, so he's in one of those cars. Florent Lacour here with the Evosia Sim Racing BMW M6 number 45 in pole position right now, and Hans Hanos at the moment in the Audi Sport Team Absolute Racing in-game livery here. As I was about to say before I got distracted by all these different drivers starting to set their banker laps in, there is a lot of differences in these cars here. Of course, you have naturally aspirated engines, you have turbocharged engines, single turbo, twin turbo, you have mid-engine, rear engine, front engine, and of course you have V6, V8, V10, and of course a boxer engine as well in form of the Porsche. For example, with Mr. Harsani in 15th place at the moment, who's in the pit lane, but Hans Hanos, of course. Oh, actually, Sol Tassani is actually making his way out of it at the moment. This is also one of the big differences here at this track. This is going to be one of the main motivations for drivers to keep it clean at the start of the race, because if you have damage, you have to go to the pit lane, of course, and then you are trapped in this very long pit lane. This is, of course, the layout chosen for the 24 Hours of Spa, which is the layout for this simulator, of course. Around 60 seconds, almost, that you need to drive through this pit lane, and combine that with the service time of a repair, you will lose quite a lot of time. And I think undoubtedly if you cause or get caught up in a turn 1 or lap 1 crash, you will have to go to the pit lane and you will pretty much go a lap down. So very, very difficult, of course. Hassani now taking his first lap here in the number 60 Porsche. Very, very nice livery there as well. A bit of a camo livery, black and white Alpine Star. And generally it's just very, very interesting to see how different cars really handle around here. Just got relegated one place down. Mr. Adamczyk is now ahead of him in the Honda NSX GT3 Evo. So also one of the newer cars which got added with the 2019 season update. Number 323, so that will be also a custom livery here. As he's now heading down Camel Straight, and I think coming to a stop to reset back to pit lane. Of course, we're just in free practice. Everyone is just trying to get to grips, trying to adjust to the current standings. We have a rather hot track today, 36 degrees temperature and a little bit of wind as well. So as it looks right now, we basically face Eau Rouge and Radion with a bit of backwind. 3 kilometers an hour, so not too fast. However, if this picks up a lot, of course, we will have to look at people adjusting their braking. Because, of course, wind, it will not really help you if it catches you from behind and, well, just doesn't go against with your airflow of the car. We have now Tiago Lima from Portugal in the Phoenix Portugal McLaren 720S with the number 94. His fastest lap so far and last lap set as well was a 2:19.3. So it's already getting quite crowded at the front. A lot of people doing sub 2:20-minute lap times. And that, of course, is also now up for debate. Are they doing race laps or are they doing qualifying laps? The fastest qualifying laps here, usually by a lot colder temperatures, can be down to 2:16s. And that is, of course, quite some pace that you have to put down on the road then. But, of course, we have to look at how the track is gripping up right now. We have an optimum track right now. The forecast is sunny, so that is a very big relief for everyone involved here. Of course, because Spa becomes quite a bigger challenge. We have Luke Whitehead here now in P20 with the number 4 liveried Black Falcon Mercedes. One of the, well, I would say for some people, crowd favorites, because of course, very, very iconic with Smile Power Racing, of course, and last year as well with Black Falcon with these anime liveries. And definitely eye-catchers and, of course, crowd favorites at the events, simply because it's just such a breath of fresh air compared to usual liveries where it's just sponsors or a paint scheme, of course. But yeah, now back with Dean Hyde here, Tempesta Racing Ferrari. Of course, his real team is not Tempesta Racing, his real team is DH Racing. And yeah, now on his way to Piff Puff here, as it's very well known for the fans. Going a bit slow right now, so I think he's just trying to warm up brakes a little bit before he goes for another lap. It's a couple minutes still due before we go to qualifying, so people just still trying to find a rhythm, trying to find how they can run their tire pressures best. This is one of the big issues as well that you have to face with changing conditions, of course. You really have to look how the tire pressures are affected by these conditions here with the track temperature, with, of course, the brake temperatures being affected with the ambient temperature, because when it's 18 degrees or 28 degrees ambient temperature, it's going to be a big difference, of course, as well with just generally brake cooling. And, of course, adjusting the brake bias is also going to affect that. And this is one of the things that can get really, really complicated for drivers. Because, of course, a too hot brake, first of all, it's more likely to fail on you. But second of all, it also affects the tire pressures as well, because the hotter the brakes get, the more heat also gets dissipated to the tires, so they build up a little bit more pressure than they usually would. So that can sometimes lead to the tires being over pressure, which then causes them to lose grip again. And, well, it's a lot of stuff that you have to worry about as a GT3 driver. One will notice very soon. Sergio Mendes heading out with a couple other drivers, the number 6 Mercedes AMG as well, and a couple of them using the non-collision in the pit lane to their advantage right now. I think that should be Mr. Lima in his McLaren. But yeah, back to the track action. To 18.498 at the moment, the fastest lap of Marek Vons. And I think he will be trying to best that a little bit to get ahead of Mr. Lacour here in his BMW. So now out on an out lap. Either that or he is now setting another lap. There is now a new lap on the top of the leaderboards, 2:18.078. Quite a fast lap, of course. And that Lamborghini really is looking strong today. Lamborghini at the moment in 1st, 5th and 7th place, of course. Only to be trumped by Audi at the moment. Some would argue they're quite similar cars, which is of course true. because the basis of the car, the engine, it's pretty much the same. But of course, the aerodynamics, the suspension and all that, especially since the Evo kits for these cars, they became quite some different pieces of machinery. But at the moment, we have Lamborghini, BMW, and then we have Sheldon Scott Muscat in the first Audi in P3. Then we have Mr. Hanus in the second Audi with the number 125. Then Mendes in the next Lamborghini, Bolko in an Audi, Street in a Lambo, and then we have a triplet of McLarens with Lima, Otti, and Carlson, and then the first of two Lexuses at the moment, which would be in the sixth starting row, with Matros and Ebrich, and then it goes on with Audi, McLaren, Aston. Mercedes, actually a bit further down right now, one of the big losing cars in overall BOP comparatively. A lot of people have been complaining that the Mercedes is a little bit slower now, but of course the developers have tested it extensively with different drivers, with real drivers and with sim drivers, of course, and adjusted it accordingly. Janek Ruoff now coming through Pouon in the Can't Be Blank Racing Porsche 297. Probably right now on his first timed lap as he heads into Piff Puff here, right-hander, and now into the left-hander here before he goes on his final stint through the last sector here. Now at Campus, now this is the gap which goes over from the second to third sector around Stavolo and now Paul Frère. This, of course, is still part of the very old circuit. This is where the old 1960 circuit rejoins the newer track. And now coming up to Blanchimont, he should be full flat out here. Of course he is. Even with a little bit of a wider line, but 254 on the brakes now. Sixth gear down to first for the bus stop chicane. Comes around the left-hander now and aggressive on the accelerator. 17, 18, 19. Where will the timer stop? And that is a 2:23.67. So at the moment in 23rd place. And you can see there is not a lot to give or take here. 2.3 seconds from first to 23rd at the moment. And a lot of people here, of course, they will be looking to improve more and more and more. As we now see Kun Sabo here in the gifted racing team number 12 Aston, white and, well, purple livery. I almost said pink there, but that would of course be incorrect. But yeah, the Aston also being one of the newer cars here. Of course, originally the game released with the 2018 selection of cars, still with the V12 Aston Martin, also a big crowd favorite because of that screaming V12 engine. This now, the new Aston sporting a 4-liter V8 twin-turbo Mercedes engine, but what is lost in sound perhaps, it put into downforce and power. This car is a very rapid piece of machinery, and of course on the straights especially, it's going to be a force to be reckoned with as he goes a little bit wide, just maybe preparing to go back to the pit lane here. So we see people just heading to the pits now, I think in preparation for qualifying. Now we have Niboisa Skensik, the 218 McLaren, grey and black, and actually I think another bit of dark purple on that. So a lot of people running their own in-game custom liveries. Of course you have an in-game editor, which you can have with different livery presets. And of course then you have a few of these user-made different liveries, which are of course not quite properly implemented because it's a feature that wasn't properly included in the game. Now Kirsten Beher with GT Omega RPM Esports, a little bit unaware perhaps of his surroundings, just waving and trying to warm up his tires as there was a very fast McLaren approaching. But yeah, the number 37 now going for another lap out of the bus stop chicane, right over the AstroTurf, but nevertheless he's going for a run now. You can see hard on the brakes, the V10 gets silenced by the braking motion, and out of La Source he goes. probably out of first or second gear. It also depends a lot on driver preference out of that corner, as he goes the nice swinging right-hand kink down the hill next to that long pit lane. Eau Rouge, Radion up over the crest. The Audi can be a bit unstable here, but that car of Beja looks very planted indeed as he goes onto the Camel Straight. Down Camel Straight, being followed by a Porsche here. Hard on the brakes for Brussels. Goes into right-hander, and that is a bit loose, perhaps a little bit too late on the brakes, because that Audi, it does not like when you over-push it too much. It's a very unforgiving car. It's a fast car, but it's a difficult car. Now going down into Brussels, that should be second gear. He leaves space for the Porsche to go through and gets out on the marbles a bit. That, of course, will also play a difference in cornering grip for the next couple corners, because these marbles, they are quite tricky on your slick tires. Mendes now coming through Stavelot and Paul Frère in his Lambo. Going into the next left-hand kink, approaching Blanchimont, just as we have the last seconds of free practice ticking away. And, either way, he's either pitting, which I don't assume so, because he's on a quite high pace right now. Going left around the last bend, so not pitting indeed, with a 0.8 actually, and comes across the line with him putting up to 4th place, 218.4, so very, very tight gaps overall there. Erbrich, actually, while we were just focusing on all cars around the grid, putting the Lexus up to 1st place with a 217.859. So the Lexus also one of the faster cars here today. And definitely we can have a lot of fun planned here for this coming race. It will be 30 minutes, so around 14-15 laps. That is going to be the race distance, but of course, first we have qualifying, 15 minutes, and overall for Spa, a lap where we saw a fast lap is around 2:17, maybe 2:16 if people get their lap properly together, is going to be a very difficult thing today here. A lot of cars, I think it should be around 30 here if everyone who signed up actually approached today. It's definitely over 23, 24, 25 cars. And with that, we might have a lot of traffic, so it will really be about finding your gap. You don't have a lot of approaches today. You really have to get this lap done properly. If you want to join this, of course, join World Pro Racing's community. Just come register on the World Pro Racing website. And of course, you have weekly casual races. You can just come up and race R-Factor 2, Assetto Corsa Competizione, and of course, Gran Turismo as well. And of course, join the Discord, get a bit more information, keep up with the news, and of course subscribe, follow, and like on other social media, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, of course. So, we will be in qualifying shortly. Everyone's now heading out of the pit lane here. A long train there. We have Erbrich here, the pole setter, or well, the winner of free practice, so to say, in the Tech 1 Racing Lexus with a number 23. Everyone's heading out, and now of course the adrenaline will start shooting up. You have to get this lap perfectly together. You have to just get this perfectly nailed. 37-degree track temperature, so it's going to be very warm. The wind has completely died down. Pretty much everyone in the stands is holding their breath. And now, of course, everyone's heading out of that pit lane here. And this is, of course, also quite difficult because you can see how much the cars are going over the bumps there around that left-hand bend, just as they are next to that tire wall. Quite bumpy, but of course, this is the 24-hour layout, and you exit the pit lane there. Could even get a cut track there if you're too aggressive on that, so you just have to be very, very careful as Marek Vons is starting to make his way around other cars already to get some clean air. Vons very desperate actually to get past other cars. Very, very late on the brakes already. Maybe he's actually also just trying to push his tires onto temperature on the outlap. And, you know, maybe he just doesn't want to get stuck behind traffic. Hans Arnos is doing the same principle. So he's building himself a nice clean gap to the back, also probably trying to get out of range so that he will not help others get a toe off of him. Now going to Piff Puff once again, as we saw from these nice camera angles so often already, in that Audi Sport Audi R8 Evo. Now back to the helicopter cam. You can hear this faint rotor noise as well. The sound design really is one of the strong points here in ACC, and you can really notice that with all the different engine notes, with all the different ambient noises. And sometimes, you know, when you hear something of the ambient noises, behind my voice, of course, you still have the track speakers as well, which are actually with real-life interviews. So we have a bit of ambient noise from the real-life 24 hours of SPA preparations after qualifying, and a lot of people will already have a bit of an earworm, as we would say in German, of that, because the text can sometimes be a little bit repetitive when you're in a 2-minute pit lane. Jonas, however, starts his lap, hard on the brakes for turn 1, comes out of it first gear up to second, third, and now fourth gear, of course. He will go up to fifth gear before Eau Rouge, but he will shift up to sixth probably afterwards, as he goes up to Radio over the crest, over the curb. Very stable car, even with that very unsettling curb on the inside. Sixth gear now. He goes up to 258, 296, completely lost with numbers now, 264, as he heads to the brake for third gear. It actually shifts down another gear for the left-hander. Now third gear out of the right-hander of Bruxelles, out of Lecombe once again, getting that wrong. And now into Bruxelles, there we are. Second gear as the timer goes to 1 minute dead now. Now into Jackie X corner, into second gear as well. There's also different approaches for this corner. It also depends on car there. Up to fourth gear and now fifth gear. He will have to shift down to fourth gear for Pouon now, as he tries to stay in, gets himself carried wide there, gets a bit of AstroTurf, and of course completely on the curb. Up to fifth gear, and now he will go back to third gear or maybe even second, depending on how he attempts Piff Puff here. So he stays in third gear, comes out of it very clean line so far, no big slides or anything. Second gear now, that is a big slide though. That is a bit of a moment under braking. Second gear up to third gear, fourth gear now. Out of Stavalo, and now Coeur Paul Frère, this longer right-hand bend. Of course, going on now to the left-hand kink and now to Blanchimont. Now going over the outside curb. Could have taken a little bit more there, but overall he seems to be very secure on his pace right now. Hard on the brakes, down to first gear through the right-hander and now left-hander. Completely clean, no big slides. Traction control barely setting in as it sounded, and he sets the first lap with a 2:19.017. And so far no one can cancel that except for Fons. He's already going up with a 2:18.4. Next people coming in, Hassani up to fourth. Ido with another Audi up to third. And people will start coming in now. Lima putting the McLaren up on pole position provisionally. And already like that, it's basically over with half of the qualifying session, just barely having done outlaps. So this is really the severity of the situation. You have to get that lap out early and you have to get it out properly and clean. A lot of people heading out now. Kunsabo is heading out just on his outlap, probably waiting for people to start setting the pace, and of course the track will start getting grippier the more people drive on it. So it's a very, very big factor here, how to time your lap. If you can just get it out at the start and have a clean run, that is of course a very good banker lap, but of course later on you will have to try again and maybe try a bit of slipstream, maybe try a bit of more rubber, but of course you'll also have a bit harder effect on the marbles there, because the more cars drive there, the more you will have the marbles on the outside as well. We have Sheldon Scott Muscat though now, GT Omega, RPM Esports, number 36 Audi, going through Piff Puff. That should be his first lap, and that is a teammate that he's stuck behind in the number 37. That should be a Beihai there, and he's letting him through exemplary. Now into Campus and coming to the end of Sector 2. So we will look excitedly what that lap will turn out to be. That is very, very wide. I think that was the maximum allowed limit before the cut track sets in. So that could be, of course, a very fast lap, or it could have just disabled the lap. But judging how he's still pushing so hard, I would argue that it's probably still legal. It takes a lot of the curb there. Now going completely to the left-hand side, hard on the brakes, and once again down to first gear into bus stop. Looks very clean so far. Comes out of bus stop and completely on the right-hand side curb to accelerate out of there. And he goes up to 6th place with a 2:19.158. Now Jan Reiler in the Belgian Audi Club Team WRT livery with the number 33. 2:21.3 so far. So there's still room for improvement from him. But of course, as I said, we have people from every skill gap here. And yeah, that is the beauty of these casual races. Of course, he should probably be a little bit more experienced by now, because these driver ratings here, this is Assetto Corsa Competizione's own little driver rating system. White goes as a gold or platinum driver, so as a pro ranking. Silver is a silver driver, and the red one is an AM driver. So it differentiates between how much this person has had track time so far, because people will have ratings in this game. You have a rating for racecraft, you have a rating for track medals. The track medals you basically just earn by doing clean laps here. Some servers actually have it enabled that you have to have at least 3 track medals for a certain track. That is basically doing 4 or 5 clean laps here, just to make sure this person knows this circuit. They can't just make a very risky move because they don't know the track properly and then take out 6 cars in one of the pickup races that we have on the server. And of course, it also is coded into the maximum amount of players for an open server. So if you have, for example, the safety rating, which is earned through a massive amount of time that you spend with other cars without contact, so basically just very close wheel-to-wheel racing after lap after lap after lap, without actual contact, so you will be able to gain a lot of safety rating. It goes from pretty much 0 to 99, though some ratings even go up to 100. For example, there's car control and consistency. Consistency can go up to 100, which is actually quite a special moment. It's basically like driving a very long distance with your car, and you just go over from that magical barrier of having 99,999 kilometers driven, and it goes over to 100,000. That is basically the same thing when you're having a 99 consistency rating and it goes over to 100. Of course, all of these ratings are dynamic. They never go maxed out completely, so there's always incentive to stay on good behavior. Marek Fons now down to 3rd place. He was relegated to 3rd by Erbrich with his Lexus. So a lot of people starting to put really fast laps in now. Fons also not quite done yet. Only 4 minutes 26 seconds remaining in qualifying. And Bolko is in 4th in pit lane behind him. So one of those guys already quite confident in his starting position. This of course will be a full rolling start, completely manual, nothing automated here. The track allows people to be very close together, and of course you have a guided system here for this rolling start. So the driver has a HUD in which he gets guided into his starting position properly. There will be penalties for jump start by the game. There will be penalties for corner cutting as well. So for any corner cut that happens in this qualifying session, you could get a track warning in the actual race. So get 3 of those and then another one. You will get a drive-through penalty, and as I said before, it takes a heck of a long time to drive through this pit lane. So people will have to be on good behavior today. Of course, you don't want to lose a track position because of something like a cut track penalty. Once again, Sheldon Muscat having improved to 2:18.8 now. Once again, very aggressive there, very much on the limit of the exit of Stavolo to Paul Frère, and making his way to Blanchimont. You can hear V10s screaming down these straights and bends here in the Ardennes forests, and of course very nice noise to hear. Here comes the Audi down to bus stop once again, gets relegated to 9th place now, because Stremair actually went up to 4th place now with another Audi. And yeah, the Audi's definitely looking strong here. They have been a very strong car here. Then we now have a 4 group of Audis from P4 to P7. And here we go here now on the trackside cams with Adrian Matros, with Remotech's Lexus with the 105. Also a pro-rated driver, so one of the guys more experienced in this simulator already. Cannot improve right now. Oh, actually he can improve, but I think it was probably an invalid lap then. So he will go for another lap with that V8 naturally aspirated front engine car. Very long wheelbase, of course. This will also be another factor in these cars. A long wheelbase, of course. You have a bit less turn-in. The car is just a little bit more stubborn, but it will be a lot more stable. It's a bit more understeer here. This Lexus, you really have to turn in a little bit earlier, maybe, to use that understeer to just hit your lines like you normally would. But this Lexus, it's fast on straights, it's stable, it has a lot of downforce, and a lot of people like it because of this. It's a very, very safe car to drive. And of course, this V8, how could you dislike that sound? Coming down to Brussels now, probably on his next timed lap. And Thiago Lima, he is very, very desperate to make sure that everyone knows that he will get a decisive pole position, I think. He's coming down now out of Lacombe, also down to Brussels. And he is now at a 2:18.1. We saw him go faster before, but the difficulty will be now if he can get that lap together in this situation. Only 1 minute left, so this will be... Well, I think he might actually be even too late for that. I think his qualifying, this is his last run for qualifying. We also have Hardos going up to P3 now, taking the Audi to P3. And there's Lacour moving up to P1 in the BMW with a 2:17.925. Very good lap from him there. BMW really making itself known, really showing we are here now. This last BOP update made us way more competitive. It was not a very crowd-favored car, but we see more and more of these BMWs just popping up everywhere. So it's a very nice thing to see how a BOP change can bring a car that wasn't so competitive before back to the top and actually into competition now. Thiago Lima now on his run around the left-hander of Blanchimont. Takes a wide line over the outside curb, tries to keep it clean and take a lot of momentum. Hard on the brakes once more with his nice helicopter cam. Goes through bus stop completely clean, just barely stays off the sausage curb, so that should be a good lap if it was valid. And he goes back to poles, 2:17.8, so another 10th. Volker as well, just moving up barely ahead of him, but then instantly gets back relegated to P3. Erbrich also on another lap, so we see how close the results are right now for qualifying. That is just barely 4/10 between 1st and 4th place, getting quite close here overall, and I'm very interested to see how everyone will fare over this half-hour race distance. Erbrich using a very wide line as well to take the maximum amount of momentum through there. That corner can be flat out if you get that line properly. And of course, Erbrich wants to get it flat out, wants to carry out all of the momentum, wants to get all of the straight line speed. He wants to use the main advantage of his Lexus here. Now hard on the brakes. You can see the front dipping down ever so slightly there. Goes hard over the inside curb at bus stop. Left side, he leaves it out a little bit more. And also goes out clean. Can he improve himself again? And no, he can not quite. He did improve, but not enough. That was 3/10 now between the first 4 or 5 cars. And of course, a lot of cars down the order. We saw it for a very short moment, still within a second. So very, very, very short gaps in between those cars. We'll have to look, of course, who can keep this together, who can keep pumping out these laps over a 30-minute distance. We will have the shortened formation lap here. So people will have to quickly warm up their tires, bring them up to pressure, bring the brakes up to temperatures as well. because they won't really have a braking zone up Eau Rouge and Radion. Their first braking zone will be at the end of Camel Straight, of course. See everyone just waiting there. The timer is ticking down to the session start. And of course, then Thiago Lima will lead us away for this 30-minute sprint race. Alongside, of course, is the BMW of Frederic Lacour. Then we have Bolco's Audi with the number 97, Erberich's Lexus in the, with the 23 in fourth. In the third row, we have Hanus and Fons in Audi and Lamborghini respectively. Then we have a pure Audi row in row 4, Stramer and Muscat. Carlson in the McLaren on P9, Yatif on P10. Mendes in the Lambo in 11, Ido in 12th with the number 31 Audi. Then we have Speth, Whitehead, Matros, and Reiler in the next 2 rows. Then we have Skensik and Plywatch with 2 McLarens in row 9, and row 10 gets completed with another McLaren and the first of the Porsches in 20th of Roof. We're now getting going. Everyone's trying to keep in their distance. You can see everyone just doing these little brake checks there. Of course, until the flag comes out, there won't be any collision enabled, luckily, but people will have to be in their position now. Everyone's a little bit staggered. Everyone's trying to get the brakes up to temps. Everyone's trying to get the tires up to temps. And everyone is now waiting for the green flag here. Any moment now. And there we are. Green light. Here we go. Collision is enabled now. And that was a very bad start from the BMW. Causes the Lexus to having to check up. And so Bolko can solidify his position, at least for now. There's a lot of cars going too wide through Radial. So far, no problem whatsoever. I think there was not a single incident. But Lacour is taking the attack already with that BMW. It's fast in a straight line. But Lima decides to defend on the inside. Does that very well. Keeps ahead. And of course, Lacour stays right behind that. Now Lima will have to try and use this downforce advantage that he has in this McLaren 720S. It's a very efficient car. Marek Fons is down in P5, from of course still in his starting spot, but we have a lot of Audi infighting there. Muscat moved up a little bit ahead of Hanus, and Hanus is now trying to go alongside, but that is contact actually. So he's now trying to rejoin. Luckily, no bigger incident there, and I think he might have also picked up a warning there, but that is very wide indeed. That is the marbles, but he is able to keep it going there. Very, very long slide there. Good car control from Hanus, but of course that's a lot of places lost. Lima keeps a clear gap now through Sector 2, and Hanus, of course, down in P12 now. That is not the start of the race that he had hoped for. Of course, the standings on the left will be renewed when we go past the sectors here. We are now here with Jan Reiler in P15. Matros in his Lexus right behind him. That is too wide behind that with the 2 McLarens of Otti and Skensik. And right behind that we have Adamczyk as well with the Honda, looking like those McLarens are a tasty snack for it. The Honda, one of these cars that is very strong in a straight line, and right behind that we have Kunsabo with his, well, not McLaren, but Aston Martin there, which is also one of the fastest straight line speed cars. But of course we have this dirty air as well, and that is a very big missed braking point from one of the McLarens. So that is going to be a very careful rejoin, and actually he stops a bit, not quite sure when he can rejoin safely, so he's just taking it to be safe. Lacour now with a better exit out of La Source, looks to the inside, to the outside now, but he would be on the inside for Radio, thinks better of it and tries to go for the run instead. You can see all of these cars just flying over that inside curb. That is now the slipstream though on Camel Straight. And he's coming closer once more. That is a quite sizable gap, but that BMW has a lot of straight line speed. He's not quite able to attack yet though. So Florent Lacour, he is not able to make that move yet. Just trying to stick now with that McLaren through Sector 2 once again. It's this classic fight of who is faster on a straight. You will be faster in Sector 1 and Sector 3, but Sector 2, that will belong to the downforce cars. Plywatch now here in 14th, trying to defend from the Lexus of Matros and the Porsche of Roof. Roof already made up 4 places since the start, so a very successful first lap for him. Besides that little collision we saw at the end of No Name and the resulting slide, we also saw nothing bigger on the first lap, so overall quite clean. No one has to take a trip to the pit lane yet, but we have Lima here now, moving the field to the Piff Paff chicane. Lacour once again lost a little bit of ground there. That BMW just doesn't have quite as much downforce as that McLaren. On the McLaren you can actually see how much downforce it has. Huge diffuser, it actually goes a long way underneath that car. So very, very aero efficient, but suffering a little bit in a straight line. Lacour now once again though in his element here, on a long straight line, not that far away from Lima, and of course he will be looking to use that advantage. Now we have Carlson here in 7th place with 2 Audis behind him and Whitehead's Mercedes. Mercedes also gotten quite far up the grid. Plywatch now trying to defend from the Lexus. The Lexus now going to look down the inside. Oh no, he's looking for the left side, for the outside braking zone of bus stop, but he thinks better of it, tries to be a little bit more careful and maybe just goes for a bit of a cleaner run through here. But he loses out quite some time with that earlier braking point, so Plywatch for once holds again his position. Now once again down to La Source. Sabo now up to 19th place. Hassani in the Porsche right behind him. And that Porsche is a very good car on the brakes and very good on acceleration because of a very short gear ratio. Of course you also have a lot of traction with that car. The only car of course with a rear engine. 6-cylinder, but still a lot of power in this car. Coming up Rouge now. Up Radion. It takes a bit less curb. You can see that maybe that wasn't all too great for that Aston Martin, but he is here, and that is actually a slow car on the inside, I think, or just defending. I think that's just defending after all. But you can see the field going together here once again. You can see how much they close that gap here as well. As soon as you start fighting a little bit, and that is a little bit of a weird hand gesture there for Thiago Lima, just adjusting maybe the brake bias or maybe adjusting the ABS or traction control a little bit, of course. That is all on the wheel in these cars and all completely simulated. Of course, all of these cars have different advantages here as well. For example, the Audi has just normal traction control and ABS, of course. And other cars like the Honda, for example, or the Ferrari, they have it a little bit more refined, TC1 and TC2. The difference between those is TC1 is purely on wheel spin, and TC2 will help with sideways slides of that car. So a lot of advanced technology in these GT3 race cars. Sheldon Scott Muscat now, though, on 4th place, has moved up quite nicely through this entire run so far. Right behind Vonce's Lamborghini, but right behind him is Erbrich's Lexus. He does not want to give up yet, and that Lexus is looking very strong on the straight. You can see him getting closer and closer and closer here. Through Blanchimont, looks for the outside, hard on the brakes. Can he actually get alongside a little bit? No, not quite. Tries to go for a bit of a nicer switchback here now. And look how close that got him. That is a lot closer than he was before. There's the first car. That is Hanos, I think, in the pit lane. So maybe a bit of damage, or maybe that was a drive-through there. I couldn't quite see it, but either way, that is going to cost him a lot of time. That's actually a second car as well in the pit lane. So 2 cars in the pit lane after what is now 3 laps. Jan-Niklas Erbrich now once again looking at the back of Muscat's Audi. Can he go for the inside? No, Muscat covers off the inside, but can he have enough overspeed that he can make the outside braking zone work into Lecombe? And on the front there we have another bit of battling, and he actually gets that outside braking, makes a very nice move. Can he make it stick? Yes, he's fully ahead now, and actually Muscat fights against it, keeps it inside for the last corner of Lecombe, and he actually gets it done. Perfectly done there, still side by side, braking into Bruxelles, but they just barely overlap. Erbrich leaves the space there, very nice and clean driving from both drivers involved, and Muscat now trying the outside of Jack Yake's corner, just barely not able there, takes a bit more momentum and gets back ahead. What a move there, what a battle. And now Ebrich will have to look in the rearview mirror as well, because Stremer's Audi is right behind him as well, and Stremer will also have to look in his rearview mirror, because Carlson's McLaren is not far behind. A four-way group fighting for P4 here, and just ahead of them, I think, we'll soon have a three-way battle as well. That is a bit of a wiggle, though. You can see quite a bit of a wiggle there from the Lexus, just getting a little bit unsettled over that left inside curb of Piff Puff. Now Stremer coming just barely into the rear end, so he had to back off a little bit, and now that momentum he lost is very noticeable there, of course, out of Paul Frère, and now, of course, coming to Blanchimont, but he has once again some nice slipstream. Back at the front, though, Thiago Lima still defending hard, and that was, I think, maybe a bit of contact with netcode there. Just very, very close there. Thiago Lima and Florent Lacour. So both of them still fighting. I don't think that we'll see an end to that fight yet. Lacour just moving a bit to the inside there, playing a little bit of psycho games, letting him see, hey, I'm still here, mate. I'm ready to attack whenever you're not ready to defend. And Lima, of course, he will have to fear for his position now. Look at how close that BMW gets on that onboard with Lacour there. Now heading through the right-hand kink onto the Camel Straight, and that run through Eau Rouge and Radion was actually a bit better for Lima, so he got himself once again a bit of a nicer run. Lacour might have also had to take a little bit out there, and that was very close. That was a big missed braking point. And Lima was very lucky that Lacour avoided that so well in that situation. Otherwise that could have been a quite messy end, or at least interruption to that fight for the lead. Now Stremer already dropping back a little bit, but we have the next four-way battle here with Plivac in the McLaren trying to defend from Matrose's Lexus. Rolf right behind that in this Porsche, and right behind that is Skensik with his next McLaren. So that Porsche once again getting very close on the brakes to that Lexus, and that is really one of the strong points of the Porsche. It has excellent brakes, it has excellent traction, it has excellent acceleration, but around the top end it just misses that bit. Now the Lexus is looking for a gap. It found the gap, looking for the inside of Pouon, gets clearly ahead. Very nice move from Matrose there, gets the move done under braking, but the Porsche sees that action, says, I want to have a piece of that cake. Very nicely takes a piece of that cake, takes the entire cake and eats it, gets ahead of Plivac as well. So Plivac very, very much having not a single break in that moment, and just completely loses out to both cars there. Now also under threat of Skensik here, his brand mate, just trying to stay ahead there. Skensik was a little bit running wide there, but that is still, I think, that should be no time gained there. 2:21 his last lap. 2:21.0, but that would have been an invalid lap, I think. And now, that is Plivac getting very wide. Skensik looking for the outsides and makes that move under braking very clearly done. Very nicely, a bit of a wiggle there on the outside marbles, but gets that move cleanly done. Now in P14, so that is a constant loss for Plivac right now. The fight for P4 rages on. Ebrich still behind Muscat. And that could be a warning for Ebrich actually, because that was over the anti-cuts there. But he is coming up the hill. That Lexus is struggling a little bit with that transition from Eau Rouge to Radion. It bottoms out a little bit hard sometimes. So it's possible for people to sometimes just lose out a bit of time there. Tomer, Yatif and Bolko, they're all fighting a little bit amongst each other, I think. We just had a bit of a fight there, so 2:20.079 last lap, best lap. So that is the next one here, Itamar Yatif in the Phoenix Racing livery. Looking at the diffuser of his brand mate, Stremer. So that is going to be very interesting now if he can get alongside or ahead. He gets a better line through Pouon. A lot of steering input there, actually, maybe rubbing the front tires a little bit to provoke the car to understeer a bit on purpose to try and keep oversteer from happening. Now Yatif looking very close to that next Audi right in front of him. But that Audi pulls away. Stremair with a nicer exit out of Piff Puff. Now through Campos there. Getting through Stavolo very nicely, but both of them run wide. And Stremair actually takes out some throttle there to try and reduce that warning to a simple no time gained, which would be reasonable at this point. But they're now too wide. And oh, that was very, very close there. So Stremair backs out of that. Also understeers off a little bit. So very, very unlucky for him there. Sheldon Muscat still in 4th place. Ebrich still in 5th place. And these battle cams from the helicopter cam are very nice to see. Coming around La Source now. Now going down the entire way here. And of course, this track, it's really something... You know, this is one of these classic racetracks, as you can all see. Complete elevation change. The track was built into the mountain. And now up the hill, a lot better than last lap. That was Elbrich getting a good run through that. But we have a very close battle here as well, with Kunsabo in 16th ahead of Whitehead. So something happened to Whitehead in these last couple laps. Almost half of the race over already. So Whitehead will be desperate to get back up to the top 10 where he was earlier in the standing. But can he make that work? And that is actually Kunsabo moving a bit to the inside, but to the outside very quickly already. Just trying to break the slipstream, and that is Ido losing a lot of positions there actually. So I think that there might have been sort of an issue for him. Maybe a little bit of a wide moment, and that is a very, very brave move there. From Whitehead, gets it done in the middle of Lecombe. So a very, very brave move, very unusual move as well. So maybe Kunsal was just a little bit too careful in the middle there. But either way, Luke Whitehead with a fantastic move, just getting close and getting through. But that could also be another warning there. These track limits, of course, they are very unforgiving. Now we are here with Marcin Adamczyk in 13th place in the Honda. One of these cars that you also don't get to see very often. 323 Honda. In 13th place in front of Mendes's Lamborghini. Mendes looked a lot quicker in the qualifying and in free practice. So maybe, just maybe, he had a few mistakes in here. Ido as well though, he lost a lot of positions from his qualifying position. So maybe a couple of these guys trying to focus too much on one lap pace, and this the tires in this, especially in the Audi, a car that's very sensitive on tires, a car that's very sensitive, that you save the tires a little bit, maybe just a little bit too aggressive, and now losing out. But we have a close battle nevertheless. We have Ryler, Adamczyk looking at the back of Ryler. Then we have Mendes, Ido, and Whitehead very close behind. Almost a 5-way battle as we go through La Source and heading down the way to Eau Rouge. And if Adamczyk gets this properly now, he should be in a very good attack range, because that Honda is stronger on the Camel Straight. But that was a very good save from Adamczyk. That was just a slide out of nowhere, maybe just tapping that right-hand side curb. You definitely don't want that to happen. We have our nice instant replay here, coming their way out of La Source there, just having to quickly catch a breath when these moments just happen very unexpectedly. But of course, this is racing. You can't expect a mistake to happen. These guys, of course, want to focus on the racing, and ooh, so I think he just hit a little bit of a bump. There's a bump on the left side of the curb on the inside of Eau Rouge. And yeah, either way, that was a close one. Full opposite lock, staying on the throttle to keep that car from spinning, and of course he's now under attack from Mendes's Lamborghini, and Ido meanwhile got overtaken by Whitehead's Mercedes. So Whitehead very desperate to show that the Mercedes still has some punch in it after the last BOP patch. and actually looking for the outside of the entrance there, so very, very aggressive on the braking. Obviously very confident in that car, and still 13th, 14th, and now 15th with Whitehead. Ido loses out another position, but he is, I think, safe for now from... Oh well, not quite safe for now, because that Lamborghini is still quite close behind. Kunsabo and then Hassani's Porsche is quite close behind. I think actually that is a lapped Audi. That should be behind. Yeah, that should be a lapped Audi or a lapping Audi, depending on how far these guys are behind already, but I think that should be a lapped Audi instead. Either way, look at all of these guys just scuffling through bus stop. Everyone's trying to find their way. Kunsabo is getting overtaken there by that lapped car, unlapping themselves. So, of course, very difficult situation to judge properly as well. Mendes takes the very inside line, as close to the wall as possible there. Whitehead got alongside, but he just couldn't quite get the move done. Is he going to look for the inside of a Rouge? Very, very ballsy move to make. And he gets it done! Mendes keeps the car together, but ooh, that was very close. So that lapped Audi is now going past. Both of them lost a lot of momentum. And I think that would actually be a Hanos probably. Because he had, I think, that white 125, that should be that car. But yeah, Whitehead now just getting ahead there. Also, well, tactically seen, a very clever move, because he got that Audi, the lapped car, behind him. And now we go back to the front battle, actually. Lima is finally able to put a bit of a gap between Lacour, Fons, and himself. So having a nice gap now, as we are 2/3 throughout this race. Luke Whitehead once again on camera. So we have the nice car, this anime liveried Mercedes. I think this is actually the one with Promare, which was a movie that was released just a short while ago. So Whitehead now looking to gain more on Adamczyk's, well, probably still hot tired Honda. And seems to be doing so quite nicely at the moment. Adamczyk, of course, like that Mercedes is one of the cars that is quite nice to drivers, beginners and pros alike, and also quite fast in a straight line. So Adamczyk must be running a bit more downforce than Whitehead at the moment. But of course, Hanos there with the lapped car that we see just now. He's also making his way past. And oh, that was maybe a bit too late on the brakes. Barely evading Whitehead's car. And that, of course, is not what you want. That was, of course, almost a collision between himself and Whitehead. And when you're unlapping yourself, that is definitely not what you want to do. The track is meanwhile a lot cooler than before. So, of course, the lap times, of course, will come down a little bit. 10 degrees, it doesn't sound like much of a track temperature difference, but it is going to be quite considerably more, because you just have a nicer operating window for the tires. You can push more comfortably, and that is once again Adamczyk very aggressive through Eau Rouge and Radio. Overall on the inside curtain, that is Stramair now with a drive-through penalty, so I think that was now his final warning. That is what I just said at the start. That is what you don't want to happen, because now that's going to go a long way down, and down the order. Bolko is going to be right behind him. Of course, he's going to be way ahead of him as soon as Stramair has to deliver that penalty. And this is the big risk here, folks. This is the big risk of tarmac runoffs. Of course, they have these here because overall for car racing it was safer for quite a considerable amount of time. Soon there's going to be a lot of rebuilds though, following of course Antoine Hubert's accident and the arrival of motorcycle endurance racing at SPA-Francorchamps, so we will see the return of gravel traps and, well, bigger runoff areas at quite a few places, and maybe even a very big and imposing grandstand at Radio. So now Plywatch once again in 19th place here, with Skin Zig's McLaren right on the back. Tries to make a long way around the outside. taking a lot of momentum and goes as far inside as possible. He's really using everything off that track. It's what you want to do with this McLaren. Of course, it has downforce, but you are reliant on that momentum to carry you. But of course, a lot of downforce, a lot of drag, and of course, a lot of slipstream from behind. Now Stramer, he's in the pit lane, delivering his penalty. We see Jan Reiler now trying to defend from Luke Whitehead behind him. So, Germany against Germany, Bavaria against... actually not really knowing the complete English term for Baden-Württemberg right now. But yeah, you could say Bayern against Baden-Württemberg. Stuttgart against Ingolstadt, of course. So, we have Simon Spette now side by side with Carlsen. Lamborghini against McLaren, and that Lamborghini is a little bit faster on straights, I think. 5.2 liter V10 naturally aspirated against a V8 twin turbo in the back of that McLaren 720S. Polanik Simcam Racing's number 11 now maybe picking up a freebie, because that was... oh, I think that is maybe even getting lapped at the moment. That should probably be getting lapped right now. Through Brussels, but still continuing the chase of Späth's Lamborghini. Now, meanwhile, all that was going on, Stramer now finally out of the pit lane, but you see how much that has dropped him down. He was in a comfortable top 10 position, now down to 20th place. And this is just this critical part here in Spa with this long pit lane. It's only 5 minutes 10 seconds to go, and it was so close before the finish. So you drive a completely error-free race, just one misstep, and you get outside of these track limits, and you're immediately just completely, well, yeah, you're just completely over with your race. Lima, meanwhile, still in the lead. Muscat, meanwhile, taking a lot of sausage curb. That's not what you want to do with that Audi, mate. That is short wheelbase and easily upset. So a bit of momentum loss there as he's trying to chase down Mr. Vons in third place. Adamczyk once again in a very big battle here with Reiler in front of him. So him chasing the Audi and being chased by an Audi at the same time. Pretty similar liveries as well, so maybe even some friends in those cars or teammates. So Ido's now making for the outside line. Adamczyk trying to defend the outside, makes it successfully, gets clean through bus stop and continues his chase for Reiler, of course. And I'm also just seeing some notes from earlier as well. For the first ACC race, we had the safety rating as 0. In future, this will change depending on the race, of course. So this, of course, is, as we said, you know, the first race. Also, the service settings, they can be bypassed by implementing a password, which we, of course, do for this sign-up race. So it will be quite interesting here. Muscat still trying to chase down Fons in the last closing minutes. Depending on when they arrive, I think it will be 1 or 2 more laps after this one. And I think it will in fact be 2 more laps after this one, because Lima is a bit further ahead, so he will cross the line before the crucial time arrives. Today, next week, we have another casual race in ACC, that time on Brands Hatch, the full Grand Prix layout, of course, another one of these very classic tracks here in Europe. Meanwhile, though, still staying in this week, Bolko in 7th place, trying to defend his position from Späth. In the Lambo, the 97 Audi Energy Racing team trying to stay ahead, trying to defend his position, overall having had a very good run there, trying to stay in the top 10, and of course, profiting from Stramer's penalty. Arnus, meanwhile, goes back into the pit lane, so I think something happened to him there, either a penalty or a collision maybe just pushing a little bit too much. And yeah, just getting back into the pit lane and, well, leaving the racing action for the foreseeable future. Instead of leaving, though, if you think about joining these races, of course, once again, just have a look at worldproracing.com, have a look at the events, see if you like something, And of course, join the Discord, sign up to these events, just join us racing. And of course, to be up to date, follow on our social media, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and of course Twitch as well. And that was a bit of air there on the inside curb for Simon Späth. Now looking for the outside, probably for the entry of Brussels. So that is going to be a very fun maneuver here. Wide gap between the two. Is there an overlap? Not a lot of overlap, but still side by side. He's trying to make it alongside, but a bit of a bump there from Matteo Bolko. Keeps Späth going from side by side. Of course, this is a little bit rubbing and racing, so no real big collision to worry about. Of course, if there was a big collision, we would have our FIA-accredited stewards, Adrian Figallo and George Muscat. So, at the moment, it seems there's no big work for them, luckily. And overall, very, very nice, of course, between these two, this battle in the last laps. Sergio Mendes, meanwhile, he has lost a lot of places, down to 18th. We saw him up in the top 10 earlier in the race. But, well, much like for Hanus, it has gone all the way down for him. Abeya's in the pits by now as well, for some reason. Adapchik as well, so that is another battle that is sadly over, because Ryla and Ido now don't have the Honda to play with anymore. And, well, meanwhile, we go back to the closest battle we have on track right now, which is Matteo Bolko versus Simon Späth. Now that should be going on to the last lap. Lima should be, by my calculations, now coming across the line just a few seconds before the time limit. And yes, we can hear it here from the voice of, I think, Gergo Panka from Kunos Simulazioni, that they actually have the last lap now. Lacour is in a very comfortable gap behind, but of course you can't quite relax yet. You have to get that last lap over, even with a comfortable gap, but of course you have to finish first before you finish in first place. Matteo Bolko now behind Simon Späth, so just as we went to see the leader, the braking maneuver probably into, oh well, either into a bus stop or, well, slipstream out of or into Blanchimont. Got Simon Späth past him, but of course Matteo Bolko has another lap, another 7 kilometers to make a move. Even though he lost a bit of momentum, tries to get some more slipstream here down the Camel Straight. Simon Späth moves down to the outside, hard on the brakes into Lecombe, and moves his way through the left-hander there. So I think he's very desperate to just stay ahead with a nice gap through Sector 2. I think maybe he's a bit more of a guy with downforce here. Jan Ryler now side by side with Ido. Down the Camel Straight on the complete left, on the complete right. Session has ended now. We have our finisher. So that should probably be... Oh, actually, no, the session hasn't ended quite yet. So, well, maybe a bit of a display error there. But either way, we have Diego Lima there, who is in the lead, of course. Comes around the last couple corners here. Comes around Stavelo, comes around Corpol Frère. As we just quickly had to go back into our professional broadcast view. Don't know why it showed session ended, but whatever. A little bit of a slip up from the simulator. Now though, most importantly, coming into bus stop, he didn't put a foot wrong, qualified on pole, kept it on pole, and kept it in first place throughout 30 minutes. Thiago Lima wins the first casual race here in ACC. Lacour gets a drive-through on the very last lap, so that is going to be 30 seconds. And that is, that is a glitch from ACC that ended our race a bit early. So, yeah, that is quite unusual. But either way, yeah, just having a look here overall, I think we have to look at the overall results again. We'll probably have to take the results, well, probably from the last time we crossed the line, or of course, you know, of the final state that we had it in here. But either way, Lima carries the win home. Lacour in second place, and at the very end, at the very last moment, I think, through Blanchimont, picking up a drive-through penalty. That is definitely not what you want to happen. And here, of course, it's not just 30 seconds, but it's a 60-second drive-through. So quite a bit of time lost there. Just the same bad luck as we saw with the Audi a few laps earlier. So people behind will be laughing into their fist, of course. A little freebie has never hurt anyone. But, of course, this was our race, our first casual race here, Spa-Francorchamps GT3 cars. Good variety. We saw a lot of different cars, a lot of talented drivers. Thanks, of course, to our sponsors, HyperX, Gaming Malta, Thrustmaster, Visit Malta, and Melita. Thank you, of course, Justin and Nathan Mifsud for the broadcast. And we have a few interviews as well. So hopefully we can get those guys in as soon as possible. They're at the moment just trying to get a hold of the drivers. So let's have a quick wait for them. It's of course still always a difficulty getting the drivers just after they finished their race. Of course, once again, we will have another race in today's time schedule and just perfectly next week at Brands Hatch. Now we have, though, Marek Alfonso Fons here. Marek, how did you like your race overall without any big issues, and how did that Lambo suit you around Spa?
Hello guys, thank you for welcoming me here. Good evening to you, or good day to all over the world, in America and everywhere. Well, the Lambo actually fit me very well. I didn't really practice a lot before the race. I mean, the practice on the server was like my first practice for the race, actually. And yeah, but it fit me very well. We made a few adjustments in the setups with the other guys in the team. And yeah, we were able to make it pretty fast, and all three of us from the team were happy with the pace of the Lambo. And the race went pretty well. I overtook one car right after the start. Then I think I was battling with the other car, with the Lexus, in lap 2 or something like that. So it was already P4, I believe. And like few laps after that, the car in front of me spun and hit the wall in Radillion. So that was P3, and from there I was just being on P3 and trying to keep it on the track, stay between the lines and bring it home.
Yeah, in the last couple of minutes you were under attack by Sheldon Scott Muscat, though. Overall, how would you say, were you in any sense of panic, for example? Just, because that Audi got so close towards the end of the race, or was everything still just completely under control, and were you confident in your position there?
Yeah, sure, that's true. Sheldon was pushing really hard, and I already had few warnings for the track limits, so I didn't want to push too much to get behind the lines and risk the drive-through. So I had to kind of slow down a bit and calm myself down, and I tried to not look at the gap to the guy behind me. So yeah, when I didn't look at it, I was trying to keep myself calm like that and just bring it home and focus on myself to not do any mistakes and hit the apexes and braking points right. And yeah, I was trying not to focus on the car behind me.
Well, definitely worked, and yeah, thank you very much, Marek Fons.
Thank you very much, guys, for the race,
so...
and hope to see you in the season.
Yeah, of course. Sorry for interrupting you there.
No.
Next up, we have our BMW driver, Florent Lacour. Florent, how did your race go?
So, at the beginning, I push very hard to push once on the limit, so maybe after 3 or 4 laps I lose some pressure on my tires, so I can follow him, and I try to continue the race behind him and to push like I can, and the result is I am second. It's quite good for me. Well, no, total.
Well, overall, of course, one of the more unusual choices for BMW, having had a reputation of being one of the slower cars in ACC before. Overall, how did you come to this choice?
Well, when I start the game, I like BMW, so my choice at the beginning is to take the BM. I like him. I like it. It's a good car for me, but take as well Aston Martin and McLaren. So for this race, I took BMW. For Spa, is quite good in the straight, but slow in the corner. But you manage to keep the line and to take a good lap.
Right, thank you very much, Florent Lacour. Do you want to give any shout-outs to team members, to sponsors or friends, family?
No. So no, sorry, thank you.
All right, then we will go to our race winner, Thiago Lima. Thiago, it really looked like you had everything completely planned here in your wonderful yellow McLaren.
Yeah, not quite. I didn't plan to have a rocket BMW behind me. It's really hard, as you know, to do a race with a car that is really fast on the straight and try to manage the straight and then try to get away on the corners. But Florent did a great drive, and luckily I've managed to find that gap that made it more comfortable. But the beginning was really hard, one of the hardest beginning of the race I had.
Yeah, we described it earlier here as one of the classic battles between, the focus on a downforce car and the focus between a low downforce car. Of course, in Sector 2, one could always see that you were gaining a bit more and a bit more, but in Sector 1 and 3, you were really in that attack range of the BMW. Was it overall very stressful for you?
It was very stressful because even from far away, he was gaining like 4/10 in the two straights, the two big straights. And I was not gaining that for trends in the corners, and Sector 2 in the race I was gaining less compared to the qualifying, at least the time it did, so it was really stressful to manage that.
But nevertheless, your nerves stayed strong as steel ropes, and you managed to pull a gap in the end when Florent finally hit some troubles. Of course, every car has its own boundaries, so, pushing all the way never works. And very good performance from you, so you held it very nicely over these 30 minutes. Any shoutouts you want to do?
No, thank you. Just thank you to you guys for all the work and all the drivers that, at least in the front, it was really clean.
Yeah, generally very clean race so far, so thank you very much, our top three, Marek Vos, Florent, and of course, Thiago.
Thank you guys, congrats.
Yeah, thank you for the race.
Congratulations, you three, and hopefully we'll see you again next week in Brands Hatch.
Okay, no problem. See you.
So, and with that done, I think we have basically arrived at the end of our program. Of course, we here were one man short today. Jake Sperry, of course, sadly ill, so I hope I managed to somehow sort of at least fill his space. Again, if you want to follow more action of World Pro Racing, like, share, subscribe, and follow on social media, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and of course Twitch. You can also, of course, watch World Pro Racing on TVM Sport, ESTV, and Motorsport TV. And of course, our sponsors brought this to you: HyperX Gaming Malta, Thrustmaster, Visit Malta, and Melita. My name is Nicolas Hillebrand. I was joined here today in the broadcast booth by Justin and Nathan Mitsud as usual. And of course, we had our two FIA accredited stewards, Adrian Figallo and George Muscat. Thank you very much.
This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.